The good news is that we have met our hiring goals, which is awesome. Going forward into fiscal year 2020 Q1, we're going to focus on building everything in GitLab. The first project that we're going to tackle is GitLab Insights, and the epic is linked here with the rough plan. So we're going to move it in as is. There are some kinks in regards to resolving Chart.js dependencies with some legacy versions, but that shouldn't be a hindrance to this. Moving on to the next OKR, we're going to focus on performance. Ramya has done a lot of great work automating functional tests at scale. For example, creating a merge request with like 2,000 lines of diffs, creating an issue with a lot of content, a lot of labels. We're going to marry this with a nightly performance test or a weekly cadence performance run that measures the memory usage of GitLab and make sure that our on-prem customers are getting a performant installation. And the last one is we're going to look to add more engineering productivity metrics as well, but after we have moved the charts, the GitLab Insights into GitLab itself. I want to take some time here. The format is a little bit different. Going in sorry, this should be calendar year. My apologies. Calendar year 2019. The direction and the projects that we take is going to evolve around speed, and the theme is to build everything internally as GitLab features from the start. The first project, Insights. This is just a mock-up. It's not there yet, but this is what we aim it to be. We will be moving the production-ready graphs into GitLab as is. We're going to focus heavily on dogfooding our GraphQL APIs. A lot of calculation is needed right now on our GitLab Insights separate instance. But as we move in, we're going to leverage GraphQL APIs and make sure that the move is mostly on the front end and rely on GitLab backend stack itself to provide the data. Very minimal UI configuration. Most likely it will be a YAML file that powers the visualization, and we're not gonna explode the scope at this point. This is MVC. The key is, again, to provide immediate value back to GitLab users, and whatever we use should be available to our users as well. And as we dog food it, make it better, it's going to provide value back to our users. And eventually, we will deprecate the quality dashboard, which is its own separate instance at this point. Moving on to the next project. So GitLab Triage. If you worked on GitLab, you worked on issues and merge requests, you may have seen a lot of these automated messages or grooming. It's a different project right now, but we are also looking to make this a native GitLab feature, make configuration as easy as possible out of the box. It could be a project settings where I'm going to configure a triage bot to run for my project. Again, this is to dogfood our own process and deprecate triage ops and make this as a native GitLab feature. We have been getting requests from customers and mentions on Hacker News as well that this is useful. You can still configure it right now, but it's a separate project. But we will aim to make this be as easy as possible to configure, and this just works out of the box for our customers as well. Moving on to the next focus is test infrastructure. So this the screenshot right here is from a recording on YouTube, and if you recognize the stance of this person, that person is Elon Musk, and the next person next to him is Marcus Brownlee. They're touring the Tesla factory, and they have this sign on the top which says "Quality is everybody's responsibility." And I figured that speaks to what we're trying to do here as well. We need to enable all the teams to write tests and make them fast and more reliable. The quality department is not responsible for all quality, but we are a quality multiplier. We need the help from all engineers to make sure that the quality of GitLab is high. The same for security as well. So the theme here will be around making tests as easy to write as possible, to contribute as possible, make it easy to debug. Once we're done with that, we're looking to replace the staging tests with review apps and just retire the QA issue checkboxes entirely. There's been a bottleneck in our release process where teams take a lot of time verifying things in staging. We're going to move it faster and closer to the development process, which is in review apps. And we're going to build test automation tooling as GitLab features from the start. So For example, the Selenium grid that we're going to build, if it's feasible and easy, we're going to make this feature in GitLab from the start. And the visual tooling. This is just an example of the projects that we are looking to tackle. Lastly, we need to define SLAs to fix broken and flaky tests. If you catch the retrospective in the last release, we have a lot of flaky tests, and it takes a month, 2 months, 3 months to fix S1P1s. We need to start measuring how we are accountable to fix these issues. Moving on to performance, I've touched on this earlier before. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but yes, we're going to make sure that we measure the memory usage of GitLab with real-world scenarios and make sure that our on-prem customers are happy. And we're going to have nightly and weekly performance tests to measure the trend of memory usage. Moving on to the last one, which is productivity. We want to make sure that engineering is at its best. They move fast and the workflow is seamless. So all the projects that we've done, the strategic investments that we've made, for example, the triage bot, milestone grooming, merge request grooming, we want the workflow in engineering to be as seamless as possible. When you create a merge request, it just gets picked up by the bot. It reminds you to add labels, and then it just goes through the process with less human intervention. So less babysitting, but more automation around this. The tools that we have that we can use includes the danger coaching that we have right now, the team labels that gets assigned to each teams, the triage package that picks on each team's label and then assigns to an engineering manager to review, priority labels, auto closing milestones, and auto rescheduling. And lastly, once this mechanism is done, we can have engineering metrics that report back on how we're doing on our speed over time to resolve bugs, merged MRs, and etc. Moving on to the challenges. So as I said before, we need to measure SLAs on our bugs. There was this issue that Stan tagged me on. It was a S2P2 that was ignored for 7 months, and we almost lost a customer because of it. So this speaks to heart that we really need to be accountable for what we labeled and tell our customers that it's going to be fixed. The second challenge here is milestone grooming. If you click on this, there's a proposal to auto close and auto reschedule milestones that's already been expired or ended. The context here is that there's leftover work in old milestones that's not being looked at. And if there's code being written, it means there was some time investment for it from our team. And we need to make sure it also flows into our throughput and ensure that the teams are correctly or accurately planning their capacity to take on work. And this also affects our metrics, because if you have, say, an MR that's scheduled for 10.3 or 10.5, and it's still being worked on, the dashboard will still be updating on those old milestones, which makes our data inaccurate. Moving on to the third one, so prioritization of broken master and broken tests. There's a proposal to make sure that we address broken master and broken tests immediately, because this causes hardship for our release managers down the pipeline, the patch release process, the security release process. And once we have tests running on review apps, if a test is broken, it just halts productivity for everybody. So addressing broken master and broken test is highest priority. 1 second, going back, sorry. The fourth item, we're going to move GitLab Insights into GitLab, but there's still some version conflict that we need to address. There is Charts.js in GitLab right now, but it's on a really old version. So the proposal here is that we're going to coordinate with the front-end team to potentially just replace the old Charts.js with the new UI component, and then that will make way for us to move GitLab Insights in as is and make that easier to move. And the last is hiring, as always. If you have any good test automation engineers that you know that are strong in Ruby and Ruby on Rails, please do refer to us. And then we're going to move on to discussion. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see each other better. And please ask questions. I'm going to look at the chat real quick here. Philippe says, migrating quality dashboard into GitLab directly a great leap forward. Yes, I agree. Thank you, Philippe. Jim is saying, could you give a layman's example of what a productivity bot is? Are we talking something like auto labeling? Yes, and also we do coaching as well, and in the danger bot, Jim, for example, if you create an MR and then you forget to add tests, the bot will tell you, hey, you need to add tests for this, or you're touching these files, you should do something. And it nags people on stale issues, like if it's been open for 3 to 6 months, we have a timeline. So there's like a reminder 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months, and so on and so forth to make sure that those issues are being looked at regularly. And then we also have charge packages for merge requests. For example, the community work that comes in, if it's not getting looked at, we collate them or summarize them in an issue, and then we fan out to the maintainers and coaches to look at these MRs.
Hey Mac, thanks for the presentation. The presentation was really good. Small point. Please make sure you're not reading your slides. You took 13 minutes, and sometimes you were just reading stuff that was on the slide. Like we can read a lot faster than you can talk. At least most people at GitLab. So no need for that. Just tell us how you feel about stuff. That's why we're in the call. I love all the plans. It's great. One thing I wonder about, we're going to measure like the memory usage of GitLab in a kind of a test scenario. Do we also want to test like the memory usage of GitLab in the wild? Because I'm kind of afraid of us making changes that like they optimize the test, but in the wild, there's problems that we're not actually fixing. So we're kind of fixing the stuff that doesn't have a big impact. We know there's memory leaks and things like that, and it would be easy to kind of do things that may have an impact or are detrimental. Do you think that's feasible? Is that on your radar, or is it already really good to start with real world like tests? I'm not quite sure.
Yes, Sid, that's on the radar as well. We are still working on the strategy to address the in the wild scenario. So I didn't put it in the slides yet, but that's on the radar.
Okay, cool. So we're going to do something like have GitLab measure its own memory usage and then put that in the usage ping or something like that.
Right, and send it back, yes.
Cool, thanks.
I'm looking at the chat. So Lucas, is this regarding the backend memory usage and not browser memory? Yes, this is I think backend. I'm pretty sure this is backend from the last I talked about with Ramya. So yes, I'm going to go with backend.
Yeah, and maybe because people are wondering, I'll give a bit more context if that's okay with you, Mac.
Sure.
The thing is, GitLab used to take 1 gigabyte of memory, 500 megabytes, then a gigabyte. Now we recommend 4 gigabytes. That's a lot of memory, and that's a lot of cost if you're running GitLab for a small team, which means that people are going to alternatives. And those alternatives, the more users they have, the faster they can add features, and the more competition we can expect from them down the road. And 4 gigabytes is just way too much. And it's because we don't have things like multi-threading. We have to spin up like separate Rails instances or separate Rails application server processes. And that's not okay. We should go to multi-threading. We should get back to using a gigabyte of memory instead of 4. And the first thing, if you want to do performance improvements, is start to measure it. So that's what we're going to do.
Thank you, Sid. And thank you for the feedback as well. I'm looking at the questions in chat. So Reb asked, isn't that what Canary deploys are for? Are you talking about the memory usage, Reb?
Yeah, when Sid was talking about, are we going to test it live? So that was just my comment there.
So yes, I think we already have memory usage in production in Canary. I think the initiative here is the on-prem installations that we are worried about, that we don't really have knowledge into. On GitLab.com, I think we have the luxury of scaling whenever we want, but our customers don't. So that's the context behind measuring other instances as well. Does that answer or clarify some of the points here, Rep?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Just a little question. I already mentioned this once during my initial phase. Do we have anything in planning when it comes to, like, as you said, like the memory usage is quite high. So are we counting on any changes that is coming to Ruby 3 in like the future where they promised multi-threading, or are we going to go back to Go as we're currently doing?
I think that question is appropriate for the backend team that's evaluating the newer version of Ruby. But we have done some testing as part of Rails 5 before. So if that changes comes, there will have to be some kind of measurement and test around that. Yes. Dan is asking, are we also considering other performance metrics at this point, like response times? Do you mean browser response times, Dan, or is it endpoint response times?
Sorry, trying to unmute. Yeah, like endpoint response times between the pieces of the system, and certainly to the user's perception as well, most importantly.
Right. So I think memory usage is first. I think response times can come later, but yes, that should be related because that also affects the rendering of the front end, and that should be taken into account. And thank you for raising the point.
Mac, a quick question on the topic of making engineering workflows faster and seamless that you had on your slide. What are the plans of implementing this for other projects than CE and EE? As an example, the bot right now is looking at community contributions for C and E, and sometimes we do miss those from GitLab runners, for an example.
Yes, thank you. So we have triage packages for each engineering team right now, and we're gonna structure it according to the newer structure of the team as well. So we are looking to expand that triage package. Right now, it's only bugs and labeling priorities, but it will contain merge requests, and it will contain other things that that team should be looking at for that week. And it's essentially the same mechanism that we use for community contributions as well. And the triage package is already there for C and EE. The projects that I'm more worried about is actually like Workhorse and Gitly that there's only a single team owning, and we haven't been able to service them or help them yet. I know that Runner and Workhorse is also a big impact surface because our community members go ahead and file issues there directly, and it has its own cycle in addition to CE and EE.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? If not, Sid was asking me, what am I worried about? I'm worried about quality, of course, and I'm worried about that we're not able to service all our teams in time. I think hiring and resource and filling up our vacancy is going to be a high priority coming into this quarter. And that's my top of the mind. And IE 11, which we know all enterprises use IE, and we need to close out that test gap.
Hey, Mac, this is Josh Rector. Question about the hiring when you're looking for the automation engineers, test automation folks. Are you interested only in Ruby skills, or would you be interested? I saw you mentioned Selenium Grid. Would you be interested in someone who's got an extensive Selenium skills?
So thank you for that. We are hiring for extensive Selenium skills. We are bringing up the hiring bar that they need to have Ruby and Rails, because the new mandate is that we should be contributing back to GitLab CE as features. So if it was other companies, it would be different. But because we're GitLab, we need to dog food our own product. We need to provide value back to our users, and we need to beat our competition, right? We need to have, if it works for us, our users should have it. Everything should work out of the box. Everything should come as part of GitLab. So having test automation engineers with Selenium and strong Ruby and Rails is a bit of a rare combination to find, but we are not compromising ourselves, because all our newer team members should have this requirement. And yes, Ruby and Rails is a hard requirement that we need. And it may change like in the next year where we have enough knowledge base or expertise in Rails that we can onboard maybe a junior or an intern and bring them up. But right now we need Ruby and Rails expertise. Thank you for asking, though.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions?
Will you get dedicated front-end quality people?
No, sir. If you'd like to help us, we are all open arms here. So if you'd like to help us with the insights, feel free to chip in and comment on the epics. We welcome any help here. Does that answer your question, Lucas? Or are you asking if we're looking to hire front-end people into the quality team? I may have missed that.
Yeah, because I think there are sometimes topics that, are like an overlap when it comes to quality. And for example, just like implementing danger rules. And it seems because, you're all Ruby developers or Rails developers, it seems like there is a bias regarding that. And I think it would help to have dedicated resources and quality as well. But yeah.
That's a great suggestion. There are newer trends that teams in the Bay Area have been using Node.js to write test automation skills, so they have JavaScript, but it's really hard to find JavaScript and Ruby. So yes, if we can find someone with JavaScript, I think we'll be open to have a few JavaScript expertise on the team as well. Yep, thank you, Lucas. So I think if there are no more questions, I'm gonna give back people 4 minutes of their time. Thank you very much for joining our group conversation, and I'll see all of you in the team call.